Bună ziua, ne auziți?
Bogdan, ne auziți? Mersi.
Good morning.
For a couple of minutes for the other participants to enter into the video conference. Okay, thank you everybody for joining us today for the presentation of the full year 2020 preliminary results. We are here with our CEO, Adrian Tănase, our CFO, Mr. Troia, and our internal controller, Cristina Vedrescu. So we will just take you through our presentation, and then of course we are welcoming your questions. Should be visible, I hope. Of the evolution of the stock of the BVB share in 2020.
Can you put on the mute microphones? Okay.
So our share price reached 125 for a market cap of 200 million RON. The price range for last year was between 19 and 26.7. In terms of ownership structure, there were some changes. Basically, the R&D previous owner of position about 5% reported passing below this threshold. But at the same time, we have a new shareholder with a significant ownership, about 5%, which is the Econ Pension Funds. In terms of ownership structure, the ownership structure is dominated by Romanian individual investors and also Romanian private investors, altogether accounting for roughly almost 95% of the outstanding shares. Moving forward to our full year results. Basically looking at the full year numbers, we saw in 2020 an increase in operating revenues by 21% to go up to the level of 40 million RON. Operating profits increased by 44% to 5.47, while the group level net profit reached 6.2 million, down 7% compared to 2019. Obviously, this was driven by some events in the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, we saw 38% increase in operating revenue, while operating profit went in red, minus 1.7 million, and net profit was in line, minus 5 million RON. Basically, looking at the most impacts for in 2020, the rise in operating revenue was in line with the rise in trading volumes. we saw a 64% overall increase in trading volume in the Romanian market to a record high level of 18.3 billion RON. While at the same time, we actually started the implementation in October 2020, implementation of the CCP, which brought, let's say, significant expenses compared to the previous quarters. Looking at full year results and the dividend expectation, what is very relevant is that the individual, the net profit of the individual BVB entity, which is the base for the dividend payments, future dividend payments, went up 31% to 9.12 million RON. In terms of Q4 developments, we can say that, and this is seen in the revenues, the trading activity was strong, so was in line with the rest of the year. The major expenses came from the CCP, which we look at on one hand the personal expenses as the team came in place for the CCP came in place, and also the contract with the CCNG, our consulting partner, went live in October. Also, there was impact coming from some financial expenses, talking here about provision on our government bond holdings due to the increase in the Romanian CDS spreads, and also some one-off personal expenses. Here we're talking about the stock option plans. Just to look a bit more into detail on these key topics that let's say affected mostly our Q4 results. So on the CCP side, out of the 4 million expense registered throughout the year, 2.3 million were registered in Q4, and this is basically the level at which the CCP will operate until the end of the implementation phase and the start of the revenue generating activities. Targets and guidance remain unchanged. So we expect to submit the authorization documentation in Q3 2021 and to start revenue generating operations in the second half of 2022. In terms of the financial results, the impact was very significant for 2020. Basically, we are looking at a 55% increase in financial profits. Basically, there were several one-off events that added together to arrive at this loss. So we have a high base effect because of one-off gain registered in 2019. There are some unrealized forex losses at 0.35 compared to 1 million profit in 2019, and there was a provision of government bonds that I already mentioned. In terms of SOP, there were the expenses relevant for the program were all registered in December 2020. Looking a bit further, the market development most important stories of the last quarter, let's say. We have the market session, the promotion that delivered to a significant extent the volumes in the second half of the year. Post Q4, so basically last week, we had the updates from FTSE. No additional Romanian companies have been added for the March rebalancing. In the main indices, nevertheless, there is still a positive news that Bitcoin system will include the microcap universe. Terra is already there, so we still see a bit higher representation of Romanian companies in the FTSE universe. The volumes traded last year, just was a short breakdown. We saw 16% rise in trading in secondary market on shares, while the share public offers, and here we are talking about secondary public offers, takeovers, and so on. This increased 5.2 times compared to 2019. Certificates were extremely active compared to, let's say, the benchmark of the previous year, driven by the high volatility that's seen in the markets at different times. So we saw a 350% rise in certificates. And obviously also the bonds were a significant chunk of the growth, mainly driven by the government bonds program Fidelis, which is expected to continue into 2021. Also, looking at the volumes so far in 2021, the January-February volumes are stable compared to 2020 averages. Also, the increase in volume was driven by higher retail participation based on the figures available from the SCI, from the investor compensation funds. We see roughly 20% year-on-year increase in the number of retail investors up to roughly 65,000. Sorry, this arrow. Looking at the primary markets, 2020 was a very positive year for the primary markets of BVB. We saw more than 1 billion euro being raised. Again, the biggest chunk was represented by the government bond program, but we saw also very high activity on the alternative market IRO. In terms of the SOEs and the long-awaited IPO of Hydroelectrica, the current government is officially very, very supportive of restarting or resuming even with higher energy needed process of listing and maybe even organizing some secondary offers for the already listed companies. Now the biggest topic locally is the growth of the sale of state-owned assets, which is expected to, the reversal of this law is expected to reach the parliament in the coming weeks. Coming to the IRO market, we see the momentum there increasing further, and this is very much driven by very high interest from the retail investors, supported also by extremely strong price performance of the already listed company there. We have a list of the five small companies that listed shares in the IRO market in the last year, and we see gains varying from 40% to 800% in their, let's say, period since they got listed. Other significant projects going at the level, we have the digitalization project. Here, the steps taken mainly were the central depository network, looking at online KYC for investors, and also online voting for general shareholders meeting. This collaboration, we had collaboration with our chain company using blockchain technology, so we are trying to make steps in line with, let's say, the rest of the financial universe. The BVB research project, we are expected to arrive end of March with the sponsored research program. Mentioned before, we have 11 brokers and 16 companies. There will be a separate portal available, and we are also looking to expand the scope of this portal and to become, let's say, BVB research hub in the future, maybe a very useful tool for the local and maybe also for the foreign investors. On the ESG side, we will continue for the second year the collaboration with Sustainability for rating the Romanian company on the ESG criteria. We are also thinking about additional education programs and had some initial conversations regarding the ESG weighted indices. And very relevant also in the program we are very, very excited about is the, let's say, the relaunch of the Made in Romania program. This program was one of the flagship programs of the stock exchange for the past 3-4 years. Obviously, last year was a bit of a bump because of the, outside external conditions. But this year we will relaunch it in an online format, and next there will be a fairly comprehensive platform connecting entrepreneurs, consultants, investors, and hoping to basically make the let's say, entrepreneurial and the financing environment of our company and to showcase better the best stories in the Romanian entrepreneurial scene, and maybe to make the stock exchange more visible across this segment of the market participants. And further on, we have more detailed presentation of the financials for the end of the year. So maybe I will let Virgil give you a bit more detail.
Yes, hello. I will give you some details regarding also more details regarding the figures presented by by Remus in the first part of the presentation. So we have here a picture of the consolidated result with the 12 months results, 2020 and 2019, and the last quarter. As you saw in the first part of the presentation, the operating revenues increased by 21%, getting to over 42 million RON, based on the strong results, operational results in all the segments of the business, mainly in the trading segments. The same evolution, the same was also on the operating revenues part in the last quarter 2020 compared to 2019, a 25% increase. Having the big picture of the consolidated results, you can see here that we registered a strong operating profit on the consolidated results, even as we registered also an 18% increase in the operating expenses. And I will come later with some explanations and some more details regarding this increase. Regarding the last quarter in 2020, as Remus mentioned, we have here an increase of 41%, but also we have some new items that are impacting the figures on the operating expenses part. Here we are speaking that the setup and the startup of the procedures in the new subsidiary CCP RO. It is true that CCP RO was set up at the end of 2019, but also the operational part started, to say so, in the second half of 2020, with a major impact in Q4 2020. So with an operating profit of almost 5 million RON, 44% increase in the year. And the quarter results, you can see here that it's the loss also increased compared to last year, but we have here in 2020 also other elements compared to 2019. The net financial result from our investment also suffered a decrease of more than 55%, and also a decrease on the quarterly level. Remus mentioned some items that are explaining this variation. I will come also with more details. So the profit for the period of consolidated over 6 million RON, almost with a small decrease compared to 2019. Smaller figures in the quarter. Regarding the individual results, so given that a big part of the results of the net profit on the consolidated level, so most of the profit is coming from the individual result. Here we registered that year a preliminary result of over 9 million RON net profit, compared to almost 7 million RON in 2019, 31% increase on the net level. So this increase is generated by the operating revenues, as you saw from the very good operational results. We had also an increase on the operating expenses of 7%, mainly also recorded in the last quarter, 2020, on the individual results, given the results that we saw, and in Q4 we could also record some estimation for the stock option plan according to the remuneration policy at the BVB level, at the group level, in order to provide shares to the employees, to the BVB employees, management, and board in 2021, based on the results from 2020 at the individual level. So we have
Let's clarify a bit the attributable profit value, yeah, because on the previous slide,
yes, to mention that the figure on the consolidated slide, the earnings per share attributable to owners, it's a figure that is requested to be presented by the IFRS, and it's an information only. So this is not the earnings per share that will be paid to the shareholders. So this decision will come
so probably the value will be higher because the base to calculate the dividend is the profit on the individual level, so the 9.12 million euros.
Yes.
Million euros.
And will come in March together with the financial statements and the setup for the shareholders meeting. It will be end of April. Okay, so strong operating profit, almost 9 million RON, decreased financial results, only 1.6 compared to 5 million, and a profit before tax of over 10.5 million RON. Here, I will enter also in some details regarding in the next slides regarding the revenues. I would like to ask you to put on mute if somebody entered now in the meeting. Thank you. So most of the things that I mentioned also before you can find on the slide 11 in our presentation. I said that I will give you more details regarding the consolidated operating expenses for the entire year 2020, which had an increase of 18%, or over 5.6 million RON. So this was generated, as I said, mainly also from the new subsidiary, also from the personnel expenses, and also from the third-party services necessary in order to set up the company, and also to provide the files for the authorization of the central counterparty. So these are expenses assumed in the business plan that was approved by the shareholder meeting, and also by the shareholders of the new subsidiary CCP.ro Bucharest. Another part of this increase is coming from the personnel expenses. Here at the individual level, given the results in 2020, here we are speaking about the FTSE Russell upgrade to emerging market in 2020 that was effective in September. So the former board also approved an exceptional bonus for the employees of the BBB for this. And at the year end in Q4, we also recorded an estimation for the stock option plan, as I said, for the employees, management, and board, based on the results, individual results of the Bucharest Stock Exchange. As you saw, we had also given the increase of over 30% in the net profit after recording this estimation. These figures were also much higher than the budgeted figures in place. So, and we consider that we can also estimate a proper figure for this. The increase in third-party services was almost 2 million RON in the consolidating operating expenses, mainly consulting expenses related to the authorization process of CCP RO, and also some other smaller increases incurred in the current pandemic context, but also in the IT area, given the special measure that had to be taken in this year. Regarding the net financial income, so yes, we had a decrease of 55%, decrease from 4.2 million in 2019, where we had a very good result, to almost 1.9 million. So mainly, this is a result of recording losses from unrealized exchange rate differences from the evaluation of the financial instruments in foreign currency at year end. So based on the year end euro and dollar exchange rate loss, and due to this we recorded a loss of, at consolidated level, of 0.35 million RON versus a profit in 2019 of over 1 million. So here it's 1.4 million is coming from this unrealized exchange rate differences. Given the increase in the credit default swap, this indicator that we are using in order to compute and record the estimations for the anticipated credit losses according to IFRS 9 for the financial instruments, we had also an impact of over 600,000 RON. Also, we had also one-off revenues in 2019, which were not recorded anymore in 2020. So there were elements that recorded this decrease. We have also some other on slide 12, analyzing a breakdown of the group trading segment revenues. We have here some evolution of comparison regarding the operating revenues and profit group trading segment. On the group trading segment level, yes, we are very happy that we recorded this increase of 31% in trading revenues, mainly on the shares trading side. We recorded also, as Remus mentioned, high increases in the fixed income instruments trading on this, but the influence in the financial figures in the revenues is small here, given that our commissions on this are also low. But a very good evolution on the structured products market that also increased the revenues 4 times. On slide 13, you can see some graphs regarding the evolution in the trading segment. Some more details on slide 15. Breakdown of the operating expenses in the main lines, so the personnel expenses, third-party services, and other operating expenses. Comparison between 2020 and 2019, 12 months. Here I explained the increases on the personnel expenses and also on the third parties. And the third other operating expenses are smaller here. So regarding the last slide, regarding the consolidated financial positions, here on the consolidated level, we recorded over 211 million RON in total assets compared to 2017 million in 2019. On the non-current assets, we have an increase of 25% compared to the beginning of the year, mainly due to the increase in the financial instruments, the acquisition of government bonds, securities or bonds, those reducing the cash position in the current assets. We try to get the best from the money that we are keeping in the financial investments, and due to this, we are also acquiring government bonds with better yield, but also with on a longer period. So current assets decreasing 15% as we saw that we used the cash in order to acquire government bonds with maturities of more than 1 year. We have here also, we can see in our report and our explanation that we record here also the cash that is due by the central depository in order to pay the dividends of the listed companies, which is also a higher position. The total liabilities are mainly short-term, with 62 million RON at year-end, some lower, with 8% compared to 2019. Mainly as a result of the reduction of commercial and other debts. And as I said, the money that we are keeping in current assets for the dividends payment in the central depository subsidiary is also recorded as a liability, a current liability in the total liabilities. Shareholders' equity in amount of over 148 million RON. It's close to the value from the beginning of the year, influenced by the recording of the net current results and comparable to the value of dividends distributed from the carried over results from 2019 and the increase of the legal reserve in all the companies. As we mentioned, the dividends will be paid out from the individual results of over 9 million RON. From this amount of 9 million RON, we will keep the legal reserves as required by the law, and given the dividend policy that is in place now, we will pay out the rest of the remaining amount in 100% probably.
So the dividend yield for 2020 might be slightly more than 4%.
Yeah. Okay, this was some details regarding the preliminary. I have to mention that we are we are still auditing, so our auditors are in our premises and are auditing the year-end financial statements, also the consolidated and the individual financial statement, in order to convey the shareholders meeting in April. Then, so in March we'll have the final financial results, also audited financial results. So if you have questions, please ask us. I hope we provided.
Hi, this is David from Wood&Co. Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the new format as well. It's indeed an improvement to the usual calls that we had last year. I have a question regarding the cost basis in the fourth quarter. I understand that the increase of costs was a result of both the new remuneration policy kicking in, as well as the CCPRO project. But could you maybe elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, because the increase was quite high. So if you could give us some details, whether we can expect this to continue going forward, or whether this is more of a one-off. Thank you.
So it will continue mostly at the CCP level, also in 2021, given that we will have the expenses recorded by the CCP in the fourth quarter, also in 2000 as quarterly, also in 2021. Our expenses in the first 3 quarters in 2021, or mainly in the first 2 quarters, we will compare to the 2 quarters of 2020. We'll have the impact of the personnel expenses in the CCP, and also during the entire year will have also an impact from the consulting expenses in order to prepare the authorization of the company as a central counterparty.
So the expenses for the central counterparty will be recurrent expenses, that's for sure. Maybe some expenses on the personal side. There are some one-offs there because we have decided to, for instance, due to the promotion of the FTSE Russell market, have decided to give an extraordinary bonus for all the employees into the stock exchange as within our stock option plan. Yeah.
Q4 on the personnel expenses was usually we had years where we could estimate and to record by a monthly base some estimation regarding the stock option plan, so providing free shares to the employees, management, and board. Also during 2020 we had an estimation for this, but from a lower amount, so that was not an impact, was not a high impact was seen in the quarterly figures. And in Q4, as we saw that we have strong results on the individual level at BVB, we also recorded an estimation of almost RON 1 million in the for stock option plan and bonuses. The policy, the remuneration policy, will be applied also in 2021, and we will record also quarterly expenses for the stock option plan. But this time in 2021 we'll record some higher amount. So the impact in Q4 2021 will be lower on the personnel expenses on this part. But on the as Adrian mentioned, on the third-party services, the impact from the Q4 will be also seen in the quarterly results from each quarter in 2021.
So from now on, on the consolidated level, you'll see some negative impact from the CCP, coming mainly from the CCP. According with the business plan you have proposed. Yeah?
Understood. Thank you. And one question related to this. I mean, I saw in the presentation that the January, February volumes are stable versus the 2020 averages. Are you comparing these to the same period or to the overall averages for the whole 2020, including the COVID effect from March 2020?
The comparison was mainly the 2020 full year average. So basically, right now in January, February, we are at the average of 2021, including also 2020, including also the high turnover periods.
Understood. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, that's all from me from now. Thank you.
So we have also some questions in the chat from Hong. So regarding the evaluation of government bonds, is it hold maturity market? Maybe we can clarify this.
So the government bonds are evaluated held to maturity. We are not trading them, so the IFRS, according to IFRS 9, we are recording them as held to maturity. As we've done in the previous year, we had also some one-off trading, as example, in 2019, when we had to sell some government bonds in order to come with the share capital in CCP, that was the BBB part of 10 million euro.
The second question regarding the government plans. Here, perhaps we don't. I mean, it's very hard to have additional information compared to what is publicly available in Romania, which is known maybe by the Romanian capital market professionals. But we also had the event hosted here, which was attended by government representatives, and indeed their intentions seem very clear, and they seem very keen to access the capital markets through the state-owned enterprises. So we heard as well listing plans, and we heard as well the idea that there is potential for increasing free float in some existing companies. At the moment, I think the whole situation is stuck behind the still in place law for big state asset sales, and we are similarly with many other people in the market waiting anxiously the new developments on this legal side. I'm not sure, Adrian, do you have anything else to add on this topic, the government or?
Of course, we have strong, we have discussions with the authorities about hydro, made about hydroelectrical leasing perspective. Everybody's waiting because we probably know that the law to cancel to allow the government to sell again the stakes within the state-owned companies. It's in the parliament, so everybody's waiting for the parliament to adopt it, and this is very important milestone to continue this process.
And the third question regarding the number of individual investors. Here the situation is not very straightforward. We have been, let's say, trying quite hard to find the proper methodology, because there are different calculations. There also are some internal calculations. There are these quite reliable numbers from investor compensation funds, but there is not a clear definition for what an active investor is and what is the exact number of active investors. What we are doing, we are also trying to look at these numbers from a different angle, and we are running some questionnaires and some information gathering with the local brokers. Not only this is just one of the topics, we are also looking at the split the turnover between different types of investors, looking at foreign institutional, local retail. And we hope to have updated numbers, including this additional data in the coming weeks.
Yeah, probably these 65,000 are the individuals which are holding some portfolios. Yeah, not necessarily they are active, but the delta, the 21%, is for sure an active individual. Yeah, because they should have bought something to become an investor registered at the investors compensation fund. Yeah. So the delta 21%, it's for sure it's an active investor. Yeah. I think the active investors, so the investors which are doing at least a trade within 6 months, is more than 20,000 nowadays. So you have an increase in this side as well. Yeah.
Any more questions, perhaps?
You can write them in the chat, or you can ask us.
Probably on an operational level, at individual level, in 2021, we will see a full effect, not necessarily a full, but a larger effect of our revision of issuers tariffs and data vending tariffs. So you will see this in 2021 stronger than 2020. On the other side, you have initiated some other projects which are involving costs from our side, but probably will have a net positive effect within the whole year due to this tariffs revision on the issuer sides and data vending.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for attending our video conference. We are also looking forward for your feedback regarding the new formats. And we will meet again, I guess, in 3 months' time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a nice day.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.